All right, what up, guys? Give me 1 sec. I still have to stream chat and stuff. YouTube chat, of course, the login information. 1 sec. I can't reach out yet. Actually, we're just gonna use Twitch chat. I'm sorry, YouTube chatters. Hop over to Twitch chat because I gotta like log back into the stuff. I'm not gonna do that right now. So YouTube chatters, come over to Twitch chat. Also, sorry about the little delay there. For some reason, my audio just wasn't picking up anymore. Even though it was working completely fine yesterday, but. Let me open up this chat here. Oh. How do you do the pop-out chat now? I never use it. I always use Restream chat. Sorry guys, I always use Restream chat, so I'm not even sure how to pop out chat here. Now it's possible. We can actually no. The 2-minute slow mo is probably for the best. Little cog setting. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. There we go. Awesome. And sorry about like the color balancing stuff. The sun's like right on me right now, so it makes it like really dark and bright at the same time. So apologies for that, guys. See if I can bigger there. Sweet. Okay, cool. The OST, we've been wanting to put it like on Spotify or something for a while. We probably will. I'll make another note of that. It shouldn't take long. But yeah, right now it's like you have to actually like I know a lot of people have just like ripped the audio from our YouTube trailers and stuff like that because there's a lot of or most of the songs are on those. However, we'll add it to like Spotify or something like that. People that want it. And sorry, sometimes I'm communicating with the team at the same time here. Also, I believe Neos announced it now. I went live and there was just some miscommunication. I mentioned him to announce it, but I don't think he, or it was just, I don't think I worded it the best way, but I think he announced it now. So we're going to wait just a minute for people to kind of come in. And then we will, you know what? I'll use that minute to set up Restream chat. It's just better. And then I don't miss YouTube chatters either. So. Okay, give Restream chat 1 second so it can pick up. Exclamation mark 30 Patreon doesn't do anything, especially when you're saying Patreon. Also, Taylora, what the hell? You're the first person to do it? That's it. I'm gonna start banning the first people to do it. Mysterious, we've been live like usually we do like an hour countdown for these and we didn't announce it. Yeah, chill, man. What time does the server come back? Yeah, so I mean, I'm here to hang out with you guys while they're doing extended maintenance. We don't have an ETA yet. Obviously, like we have a rough internal idea, but it could be a lot quicker. So we're just holding off on that for now. Exclamation mark Patreon 30 doesn't do anything. We'll just start timing it out just because of spam in the chat. Okay. So yeah, I saw Taylora started it. So next time we'll yeah, if a mod can just add like a block to that just to avoid the spam in the chat. We always get it. Yeah, we will add it as a ban word for now, but it still is annoying. It feels bad because some people just do it because they see one person saying it, and they just follow, right? Because they think they're getting a giveaway. So. Adding hotkey configuration is great. Me personally just had a downside on not being able to use delete anymore, but we can now use another key that was once. I'm not really quite sure you're asking. Sorry. Any progress on the in-game chat to stop auto minimizing? We've fully redone the in-game chat's UI. We just haven't had a chance to implement the new UI yet. As you guys can understand, obviously we have other things that we think are higher priority right now. But add row line gathering houses, please. Need some quality life. Yeah, I mean, there's always quality of life to be added in every game everywhere. There's no MMORPG that is done with quality of life. Even I mean Dragonflight for WoW, they just had so many more quality of life improvements, and this is a near 20-year-old game. There's no end of quality of life. As you get things that are like more important in terms of quality of life, suddenly less important things become important. For example, like, hey, I want to gather faster now, right? There will never be an end to quality of life, and we'll continue to always add quality of life stuff. But at a certain point, we have to decide, like, okay, is this actually as important it is? Like, is it actually this important that players can just gather their land faster? Or is it more important to be working on something else, like new content, stuff like that? And we're very close to that point where there's like a few things we still want to get in, like the revamp chat UI, and a handful of other things. But we're definitely getting to that point now where we're like, you know what, quality of life things take a long time to do. Preset builds were a lot of work. Hotkey remapping wasn't as bad, but preset builds were a lot of work to implement. And obviously what happens is, you implement preset builds, which a lot of people really wanted. And then there's other 50% of the community that's like, I don't care about this. I wanted this, right? And so, this was an important patch for us. There was a lot of things that were really important there, especially back-end wise, in terms of optimizations, that were incredibly important for the upcoming PvP stuff, just because of how chaotic it will be. I mean, you guys have already seen like the 50 versus 50 wars where, there's a lot of issues with that, right? On the latency side. Is it true that this is a preview of the next update? I'm not sure who said that, but yeah. Somebody's asking me about just like certain things are not worth crafting and utilizing. I would love to talk about this kind of stuff. I can't though, because it's economy impacting. We're working on a lot of stuff with that though. But I really can't share more than that, because if I do, people are going to rush to buy up certain things, and it'll cause big issues. So I can't talk about it. Yeah, like someone just mentioned on it. I've been playing MMO since 1999. You guys are doing a great job, but I think devs should be careful with spoilers, because there are some people buying specific items from the market. Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely something that we'll be really careful to avoid. Again, at times it can be tough, right? Like there's been some things that we've shared that we didn't really expect it to impact the market much. I mean, even the trade pack change was kind of a weird one, because we were doubling the materials, but also doubling the silver. And so like, it didn't seem like something that we couldn't share, because it's literally just doubling the value. I guess the point is that like maybe they're more efficient to run, so people are probably more likely to do them. And keep in mind this, many times like there's been things in the economy that exploded, and the next day it was like almost back to normal, if not back to normal. People also want to take opportunities there, right? And so just because the economy goes crazy for a day doesn't mean it's how it should be, and doesn't mean that that's like the new baseline for it. But yeah, we'll be super careful when we talk about that kind of stuff. And that can be frustrating at times because we want to like share certain things, right? Like, especially when people are like, hey, why are you not changing this? Or why are you not doing anything about this? And we want to say like, oh, well, we are, but we can't, right? Let the market go ahead and share it. Please add markers or stair markers to the map. Yeah, it's something that we want to do. Again, I just need to be super clear, guys. There are so many quality of life things that we want to do. Every game has a million quality of life things that everybody wants. At a certain point, we just got to be like, okay, is this worth the time right now, or is this something that we can do in the future? Again, preset builds, hockey remapping, these were things that needed to be in. Absolutely, it makes the game so much smoother. And I mean, hockey remapping for some people, it's almost a necessity. In terms of, especially people with disabilities, it makes certain things a lot easier. But preset builds are also they were such a big quality of life thing that even though they were a ton of work, we knew they were incredibly important. So, talk about the open position in software development at Tavern Light, how much experience with C++ is necessary. You basically just need to be able to pass our technical trial, and then you're evaluated with other people that also passed it based on just the quality of it. In the end of the day, like it's hard to say, right? Some people spend 6 months C++ and they have an incredibly strong understanding of it. Some people spend a decade lightly using it and really don't have a strong understanding of it. So, yeah, there's no like number that we look for. We don't like look to see if there's a 3 or 4 years in front of or something like that. It's not how we do things, but. Also, I can't read Portuguese, just so you guys know. Just use Google Translate, and I can usually understand what you're saying. Advice to you that you are Brazilian and know it's people. I'm not Brazilian, but I obviously we have a lot of staff that are Brazilian, and I've been down there for BGS, but I wouldn't say I know its people. But anyways, stop paying attention to the toxic feedback you receive. The Brazilian community, like any others, is a bit complicated. There will always be people complaining despite your good work. You kind of continue on that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's just the gaming community in general. It's not really like unique to Brazilian people. They're like, it doesn't matter how good state of something is. There will always be people that complain. And again, this isn't always a bad thing. People having enough of a care to complain is usually a good thing to some degree, right? There's people that do it in a very toxic way. And we recognize that, and we know the people that do that. And there's people that really, they mean it in the best way possible. There's a huge difference between how we get feedback, but you're right. At times it is just like really toxic. And that's absolutely okay. Like we've always, like, again, we've been gamers all our lives, been in gaming communities all our lives. We've been devs for a long time too. We understand how a vocal minority works. We understand how a lot of these communities work, especially in MMORPGs. That's kind of why, for anyone who doesn't know, I made a big minor announcement. I'll probably read through it actually here. And that's a big reason why I made it. Because to be honest, like I was definitely letting the vocal minority get to me, and reserving kind of stuff that I want to share and talk about because of this vocal minority at times. And moving forward, I'll just be banning them. Like it's just not worth it. Yeah. One thing that really blew our minds was seeing how small of a group it actually usually is. There's been a few situations lately where we were just like, you know what? People just going crazy about this thing. We're just like being super toxic. And usually they're like people that have never said a word in the Discord or whatever. And they're trying to get involved in some drama or whatever. We're just going to ban them. And it's been shocking to see how sometimes you ban like 8 people and and it's completely different because it was actually only 8 people saying it all, but they were engaging with like everybody, right? They were replying to every single person. They were bringing it up as soon as it went away, and it was really just those like 8 people. Yeah, and I will say like most communities are moderated way better. I don't want to say better. I want to say more aggressive than ours. And we used to moderate pretty aggressively, but we took a huge step back on the launch and just, wanted to kind of see how it developed in itself. But virtually like every community that doesn't get moderated well, or aggressively, I should say, ends up with like some bad apples that end up just trying to spoil everything all the time. Do you read forum suggestions, Snyder? We get them, like the CM team puts them together and presents them to us. I know like a lot of the devs, they're like directly on the forums all the time. I usually am too when I have like some free time. When I say free time, I mean like anytime that I'm not working, I generally like open up the forums, or I mean, usually I'm actually more in the tavern. I prefer to engage in the tavern. But yeah. But like one thing I need to make clear, guys, like just because you guys have a suggestion doesn't mean that we will do it, right? So like just because you make a post like, oh, I think they should like completely change the system to be like this way that I like it, it doesn't mean that we agree, right? There'll be a lot of really well thought out ideas that we just don't like, or we just don't think they're right. Even though you strongly believe they are. Just because you put a suggestion on the forum doesn't mean we agree. And just because you send and tag me the same suggestion 4 or 5 times, many times like the answer is just so long to explain why it's not a good idea, that I don't respond, because if I say like, oh, we don't like that, and I say something really short, people will want a whole explanation to why their idea isn't fair. Community events, stuff like that. Sorry, can you expand a bit on that, Tote? Okay, guess I'm wasting my time. Clearly my question being ignored. Guys, please look at the chat. How many questions are coming up, okay? Please, like, just because I don't answer yours within your expected time frame, there are hundreds of questions being sent every couple minutes here. Even with slow mode, I will not get back to all of you guys. I'll probably only get back to 5% of your guys' questions. If I don't respond to you, because there's 700 other people in here asking questions on a 8 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, please don't take offense to that. And please like take a step back and like understand, like, never mind. It's yeah. Look how many questions about ETUB and you don't say a thing about it. Sorry, what have we not answered on that situation yet? I'm pretty sure we've answered everything about that situation. Need to pan the in-game account side to some of these comments. Yeah, maybe. Are new mining locations still planned in the next patches? Yeah, absolutely. I believe they've already added them to the map, but 500k for preset isn't fair. Yeah, we're already changing that. I can safely say that. It'll be changed when we're booted back up. Again, to be clear, guys, this is in-game currency. I understand that everybody wants things as cheap as possible. You don't think there's a problem, though, with some things in-game, even if it is like a quality of life feature, like unlocking like pre-builds. We don't think there's a problem with that, with people grinding some silver for it. We don't think like having in-game progression required for certain things in the game is a problem either. JP, we directly responded to that as well. Again, we wrote a minor announcement about it. If I know most people did read it, but there's some people that they're very involved in the drama with streamers because they have, you know, a little bit of a parasocial connection with them. But please, like, first read the way that we responded to it, and didn't answer why the, like, again, didn't answer why the Brazilians have a room temperature IQ about the ETUB situation. And that's not the case either. Both sides have very fair points on it. And again, that's why we're not talking much on it, because it just instantly becomes like very xenophobic with shit like that. But also it just very much becomes an us versus them between his viewers, BMT viewers, their guilds, each other's guilds. It's just, that's why we just don't discuss it more. Yeah. I feel like there's a missed opportunity on forming a strong community through community events like fan arts, small competitions, et cetera, et cetera. Perhaps I missed them. Yeah, we had a bunch of, like, on launch too. Yeah, we'll probably do more stuff like that. I will say, like, the community management team was crazy busy through the launch with just how many players there was, how many things we had to help with. And some of those things get delayed. But I agree, the community management team should be much more on top of those things. It's just a time thing many times. I love the fact that you can talk casually in the tavern, and I hate that you get this inevitable community clash. I hope you are enjoying your time there in the casual setting as much as possible. So yeah, I generally do. Like, there's a reason why. It's not like, I mean, I am a little bit of a sucker for punishment too. But like, the reason why I go in there and just chat, it's like, I know there's gonna be people that tag me and they're like, hey, I want this and I want that, and like, why did you do this and why did you do that? And I understand that. But I'm okay with that. And that's kind of what my minor announcement is a little bit about. Is like, I don't want that to deter me from wanting to engage with a community as a developer. Because this is, like, very rare nowadays. You just don't see it that much, that developers engage with their communities in, like, a casual setting like that, or even, like, you know, random unplanned live streams like this, like we've done many times. Many developers do as well, to be clear. But you also see a lot less doing it for a reason. I mean, for an example, a guy spamming fix, scroll, change channel. Yeah, I'm not really sure. But in the end of the day, like, there's going to be some level of that. And we're probably just going to, like, just start banning it more. Because again, like, the truth is, like, I love being in there because I love talking about the game and I love talking to people who are passionate about the game. But I also completely understand when another developer is like, I don't want to be in there, because anytime I say, hey, what's up, community? Or like, hey, what do you guys want? You know, asking about something or whatever, it just turns into a million people tagging them, and some people being, like, really mean too. I understand why those people are like, I just don't want to do it. It's just not, you know. So, and it sucks because, like, again, I'm an MMORPG player all my life. I still actively am. Not right now, just with Raven Dawn's launch. But I see firsthand how communities respond to stuff. And every time, like, I totally get why devs don't say a word to the community. And it sucks because there's many people that don't behave like that. Why don't you guys use a live Q&A platform where we can vote for the best questions? Yeah, we've considered that with even just, like, the forum support on the Discord. Sorry, I'm just responding to some questions on the main and stuff. But this was, again, a very impromptu live stream, so. Great positioning for you and your team. I love reading what's happening in the company and the game. So your smaller announcements are great for that. Communication is super necessary. I think you guys are on the right track. Thank you for this stance. Raven Dawn's the best MMO game currently for me, Heart. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'll read what my minor announcement was and kind of why. What about accessibility? For people with sight issues, Ravenon can be hard to play. The fog in dark places can't be deactivated. Yeah, I mean, guys, to be clear, like there's a lot of games that have darkness and like shadows in the game and stuff like that, that are really important as part of the game. And just adding an option to disable those, the result is everybody just disables it. And it kind of ruins that entire part of the game, right? You can't do any situations where you have certain things that are purposely half hidden, or situations where you're actually not supposed to see on the other side of an area other than to spoil content. And unfortunately, adding options like that lead to just everybody disabling it. It kind of ruins a huge chunk of game design. And I understand there's a lot of games that add that, and there's a lot of games that don't add that intentionally. And I understand that also really sucks for people that do have issues with looking on like dark parts of the game. But again, there are a lot of games that have dark areas, shadows in the game, stuff like that, for part of the game design. And just removing that is a huge change to a lot of the game. And us just removing that would change a lot of areas in the game as well. I'm excited for the upcoming respawn timer you teased. That alone is huge for the PvP content update. Will it alone be enough to fix players' death marching wagons? Yeah, I mean, that is what the intention is for. So it will be very similar to how WoW system is, where you will get a longer respawn timer based on how frequently you've died in a very short amount of time, up to a cap, of course. And really the intention is for that. So. What he's saying is we are not going to fix the shadow areas. We don't think there's anything wrong with having shadows or dark areas in a game. There's nothing to fix there. But if you mean like changing it and removing dark areas in the game and shadows in the game, yeah, we're unlikely to do that. Most games have darkness in the game, or nighttime and stuff like that. So, all right, guys, I'm going to read through our minor announcement here. I will try to think the best way to do this. Actually, I'll just read it out loud for anyone wanting to follow along. It's just in the minor announcements channel. Okay, sorry, I'm about to get distracted with questions again. So let me just read through it quick. I'm just gonna literally read it word for word, guys. But I don't provide extra context because typing you can only provide so much. I want to take a moment to write an update for everyone on some stuff on my mind lately. Our team went into game development, more specifically MMORPG development, because we love games and we love MMORPGs. We felt that the direction of the space was moving in a direction that we did not like, and wanted to bring back true open world player driven MMORPGs. So first topic, more frequent communication again. For years, I, as well as much of our team, were frustrated by how disconnected developers were in their communication with their communities. Within days of Ravenon launching, I understood why. It can be very difficult to deal with the loudest minority of any community, let alone an online PvP-based MMORPG community. Brackets, my entire life, my primary desired games have been MMORPG or PvP-based MMORPGs. I understand. But truly felt frustrations were purely due to lack of communication. So to be clear there, I felt that most of frustrations in PvP-based MMO communities was due to lack of communication. I very quickly understood that this is not it, and it's just kind of a little bit more of a toxic space of the internet. And that is totally fine. That's to be expected. Anytime you have competition in a game, it's going to become more toxic. And you see that with every competition-based game. And that's why oftentimes, like, I mean, why is there very little toxicity in a single player game community? And to be clear, guys, I don't think that's necessarily all a bad thing. I think with that comes a lot of really cool parts, right? I think that toxicity comes from the competitive element. I think it comes from that desire to be good, and that desire to be better than the person across from you. And that's also probably my favorite part about PvP MMORPGs. So I think with it, like, the good comes with the bad. And there's a reason we got into this genre and why I've loved this genre all my life. And it is with the good and the bad there. And so just to be clear, like, I'm not saying this as a like shaking my finger. This is so like, I understand totally where it comes from. And I think it's like one of the cons to a really cool genre of gaming. Quickly notice that the communication is almost always used against you by this vocal minority. Sharing that something is being worked on when people ask about it turns into, why share something if it's not done? You promised it would be coming. Why isn't it here yet? The list goes on with hundreds of examples. All of you guys know hundreds of examples. You see it in the community right now. And truth is, it sucks. It sucks as a developer who wants to communicate frequently and share with the community what we're working on, what we're excited about, and that your input is heard. And virtually every time, wish you didn't. So ultimately, really what this has come down to is almost every time we've shared something, or said we're working on something, or said like, hey, we hear your feedback on this and we're working on a change for it. Almost every time we've regretted it to some degree. Again, from a small vocal minority, to be super clear, not from the majority of you guys. 99% of our community is awesome, but they're usually the quietest ones, right? And usually the most vocal will be the ones that are not as, at times the shitty parts of the community. At times people that are vocal are just passionate. That's totally fine. But many times passion can very quickly slip into just being mean. And I don't, and by the way, to be clear, like feedback in many ways is not being mean. That feedback is super important. And obviously a lot of our changes and improvements to Raven Dawn have been based on feedback. But there is a very different way from doing this to like sending a message like, all of the devs on this team are fucking idiots. And why have they not changed this thing that I want? There's a very big difference between that and giving feedback, right? And I hope it's super clear that's what we're referring to. But we're a team that wants to communicate. We want to share. We want to tease things that are coming as frequently as we did early on. We want to make sure your input is heard, even if it takes time for us to finish your request specifically, as there are thousands with their own specific requests. Moving forward, I'll be communicating significantly more in this channel for the entire community again. Everything shared in here will include a very clear disclaimer at the end to make sure everyone reading it understands that just because something is shared does not make it gospel. Just because we plan for something to be in X date or X patch does not change the fact that the team could find something wrong or that could be further improved and prefer to delay it to a future patch. Just because we mentioned we are working on something does not mean it will be in the 3 days later when the patch is, when the next patch is. But I do not want to go down the path of most teams where we simply stop communicating out of fear of a vocal minority that will generally complain anytime they can about anything. Really, I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory, but ultimately I'm going to be sharing a lot again. We're going to work really hard to avoid anything that can impact the economy being shared. I promise you that. I will be very diligent on that. I might screw up one time without, like, it might be something that I don't really consider that it could have an impact, and I apologize in advance, but I don't want that fear of that hypothetical situation to stop me from communicating, if that makes sense. As well as the fear of like, oh, we respond like, hey, we're working on this thing, we're really excited about it. And then a patch happens a few days later and someone's like, why is it not in this patch already? It's like, well, we didn't say it was going to be in that patch. We've been working on it, but just because we're working on it now doesn't mean that it's in the game in 3 days. And we don't want that either to pull us away from just wanting to share stuff with you guys. And I have a bit more of a disclaimer at the end, but the next part is scaling up the Raven Dawn team. MMORPGs take a very large team to build. This is widely understood in the industry and most gaming communities. While the Raven Dawn team is quite large for an indie studio, we are still a fraction of the size when compared to teams behind MMORPGs such as WoW, RuneScape, and even Tibia. We never expected Raven Dawn to be as big as it is, but soon after its release, we knew we had something special here as a foundation that we needed to build upon. But we also knew we had to build faster. With this, we grew the team quite a bit early after launch in QA, player support, and community management roles specifically. Certain roles, like developers, especially programmers, take a lot longer to onboard. Between technical interviews, getting them up to pace with your tech stack, these are not quick additions and take time. This is the really important part. It is very easy to bring someone in for player support. And those are things that within a day, you can teach them the processes, share with them kind of expectations, stuff like that. It is not the same for developers. We are still interviewing developers. We've had hundreds and hundreds, over 1,000 now, applications. And which is incredible. And we're so lucky, but this takes a lot of time. We don't use automated processes to just like filter out people because we just don't really agree with that. And because that, it takes time to find the right fits. And then even once they are through all that and join the studio, it takes time for them to get up to pace. And they're not working on Guild Wars or Aether Gates. Like they're not working on these systems day one of joining. Even if they're incredibly talented, they will not be doing that on day one. And so like even if they have 20 years experience, very talented, know our tech stack perfectly, that is just generally will not do that because there's so many moving pieces that they're not aware of. So with that, it takes time. And as much as we would like to have like doubled the amount of developers within a week of launching, this is not possible. And so we are currently in the process of nearly doubling the programming team behind Raven Dawn for the long term to allow us to develop new content, new systems, and improve upon existing systems. Bug fixes significantly faster. But this takes time, as mentioned, so we appreciate your patience, so we scale up the team so we can make more cooler stuff for years to come. And that's really an important part here, guys. MMORPGs have constant swings of population. This is in every single MMORPG, every single game of all time. The nice part about MMORPGs is you do expansions, you do content patches, you do significant reason for new players to join and returning players to come back, right? This has been seen across all MMORPGs of all time. A lot of the biggest MMORPGs now today grew significantly in the early years. As much as it feels weird to like shout them out, and they have their issues, Albion Online's done a great job of this. And when they launched, anyone who knows when that game launched, they are magnitudes larger than they were the first year they were out. Their first year, I did not think they were going to survive their first year at all. But they did a lot of stuff really well. They had a really passionate team. They grew the team, and now they're pretty large size MMO. I believe they still have been growing every year. And granted, I have some feelings about some things that they do there, which is like monetization and stuff. But in terms of knowing how to grow a game, they've done a good job of it. And I think that's one of the huge advantages that a team like Albion or a team like ours, or more like, small for MMORPG studios, but mid-size for game studios. I think that's where we have a huge edge, is we're able to dedicate long-term to something. It's a lot harder when you're at a studio that has a bunch of titles and, they're working on a bunch of different games, to dedicate long-term to a project, because they have so much incentive to just like cut the team and move them on to something else, right? As soon as it's made a return. And I think it's one of the huge advantages that up and coming indie MMORPGs have, is they are fully focused on scaling up their universe and their project. And that's a very cool situation to be in. Something that we're very excited about. Could you block all these sad guys that post 40 comments a day on the subreddit to attack the... Yeah, we've noticed that there are the same people in Discord, and they go to Reddit, and they're in game, that are literally just crying for like 2 months now about every day there's a different thing they want to cry about. And they're like super doomer, even though they've been they play every day for like 10 hours. And then they go and say like, I'm quitting. And they've said it like 80 times. We'll probably just start removing it because it doesn't add anything constructive. If it's like a random person, like, okay, whatever. It's, that's fine. We don't want to change that. But there are people that for 2 months, they just literally every day post like, this is awful. I'm out of here. And then it's like, people poke fun at them now a little bit in like the tavern, because they see it. They see like the same person saying it all the time. And yeah, they're really annoying. We probably will just get way more aggressive on moderating soon here. Because again, like there's a total difference between someone giving feedback and someone just like coming in every day for 2 months saying I'm quitting and posting on a subreddit like, this game sucks. Meanwhile, they played like 12 hours that day. We will probably just start removing it. Like most communities do that. Almost every game community does that. Those same people are going to go onto other Reddits and cry and say they're censoring and shit. That's okay. We're kind of just over it now at this point. Again, because it's the same people. Yeah. No one will follow you for moderating more heavily. You'd be surprised, Merlin. I think it's a little different when it's like your Twitch stream or whatever. And again, I shouldn't share that. Just more about my background, but it's a little different when you're like a game than a personality, if that makes sense. Because like we represent a lot more than just ourselves. We represent, you know, and we want to have an inclusive community, right? I think when you're like a personality or a streamer, it's like, well, I want people that jive with me and match my personality, or not match, but like they fit in with this community. If that makes sense. When you're a game, like you want to allow for more communities, if that makes. I'm wording this pretty poorly, and I mean it in like only a positive way on both sides, to be super clear. But I've been thinking a lot about this, about how can a streamer be a little more aggressive with banning versus like a game, for example. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is like, as a streamer, like you want the community that fits your energy and what you bring to the table and what your good factors are and stuff like that. Because you want to, it's like picking friends, right? And in many ways, like while you try to avoid parasocial stuff with streaming, there is an element of like, you know, these are people you're hanging out with all day. You're picking your colleagues in many ways, which I think is really good. And I think that makes the job way more fun, right? It's a little harder when it's like a game to do that, but there is some level that we also need to do as well. So like, while you said no one will follow you for it, while I really appreciate that, and I do agree to it, I do agree to a degree. There are actually a lot of people that will follow us for it. There was one time where we were banning people over, I can't remember what it was. It was really early on, like a weekend. And there was like a huge thread on MMORPG subreddit just saying how we're like silencing people. Even though it was just people that were being completely shitty. But of course they don't share that. They just go and say we're silencing people. But if you banned 100 people that day for shit, they make enough of a shitstorm on a subreddit to get to the very top, right? And then other people outside are like, oh my God, they're just censoring people. You know, like, so again, like there's a lot of people asking for things, guys, right now in the chat that are if you think your question is economy impacting, understand why I'm not answering it, if that makes sense. If you think like, if you ask a question, you're like, could this change the economy in any way? Like by this thing being more common to be looted, or this thing being harder to be looted, or this thing having another purpose to it, or this thing having a recycle mechanic. If you're asking questions like that, assume I cannot answer it. Okay. That doesn't mean we're not doing it. That doesn't mean I'm ignoring you. Just understand why I can't answer it. And that's why, yeah. We will be working on the PTR setup very soon here, or finalizing it, I should say. Yeah, we think it's super important at this point for patches, because there are things that get extensively Q&A'd, like extensively, and when you have enough people, things break. And at this point, we just like, because even with a dozen people testing it, it is just not enough to get a large enough sample size to find every little thing that could break. And we just, at this point, we think it's important that we just get that more bulk community testing. Oh, let me read a little bit more here, guys. Major PvP update / mini expansion. As mentioned in this most recent patch intro, virtually everything in this patch was we felt was critical to get into Raven Dawn before the major PvP mini expansion to come. This PvP update was planned to be significantly smaller than it is now, but we feel this scope increase is warranted for a handful of reasons. We are planning it to be the scope of our first mini expansion, and we'll title it as such. Not too much to share on this, but essentially, we have a lot more coming for this update than we planned, and most of those systems rely on each other to function properly. You guys will understand once you see it live, but some of these require the same kind of like backbone structure to work. That is a very complicated backbone structure. And with that, the actual systems themselves, once that structure is done, are not incredibly time intensive to finish. But they rely on each other in many ways. So with that, the PvP patch will be a lot bigger than expected, significantly bigger than expected, and it'll have more than just PvP stuff as well. I'm not going to share what exactly because people are going to run away with it yet. I will tease it in the near future here, but there will be a lot more coming with it, and that's why it will be we will be dubbing it as like a mini expansion because there will be a lot coming with it. That also means it's going to take time. We will have a PTR up for it first, so everyone will be able to test a lot of these new systems, and we will work to hide the economy related ones. But there will be a lot of changes. And this is not to say that we won't have patches before this still. We will, because there will be things that we're wanting to get in consistently and stuff. But these major systems, they won't change the fact that we will still have patches for other stuff. With this quote unquote mini expansion, a huge focus for us will also be introducing systems that encourage returning players and new players alike, as this expansion will bring a significant amount of endgame activity as well as mid-game PvP activity and more. We feel it is important to also introduce systems that encourage returning and new players at the same time or shortly before instead of simply dropping this content. While we know everyone is incredibly hungry for this content, understandably so, we want to communicate why we feel it is important to do a larger mini expansion for it rather than trickling in each system, many of which rely on each other. We plan to share teasers on these systems soon to give you all a showcase of what's to come. We're confident you'll truly love it. And then I added a disclaimer, guys, and I will be putting this disclaimer probably at the end of every minor announcement I do. So apologies for the fact that you will get a paragraph and a half of disclaimer. But the disclaimer is I share things in here to communicate early and often. Everything mentioned in this channel is subject to change at any time for any reason. The order of content mentioned can change at any moment. Specific details can change at any moment. Just because something is mentioned in here being worked on does not mean the thing you want us to work on is not being worked on as well. If you do not wish to hear what we're currently working on for fear that you will be angry or sad if something is changed or delayed, do not read this channel. Try to avoid sharing anything. Sharing anything that could impact the economy. However, frequent communication can sometimes lead to sharing something that can impact the economy unintentionally. Yeah. So that is essentially my disclaimer. If you read anything in the minor announcements channel, assume that disclaimer, okay? Because I don't want to be in there sharing stuff that we're excited about and then people get upset because it's not in the patch the day after, just because we sent a teaser on something that's work in progress. There should be some more media coverage in ads, community streamers, into how many mechanics there are in some quests and dynamic events that people are not even close to being aware. Most people just repeatedly kill mobs, closing boxes, and do PvP. But this game have things like Zelda Breath of the Wild, GBA. We understand that. There's obviously things in game right now that are still not discovered. Some things that we don't expect people to discover for a while still. That's very different from modern day MMORPGs. Usually the gameplay loop is very clear and very specific. There are many things in the game that are not unlocked yet, not understood yet, not explored yet. And they might not be for a long time. And that's okay. And we don't want to make them easier to be uncovered either. It'll be something cool for somebody a year from now to uncover something and be like, holy shit, we never knew this was here the whole time. That is totally fine with us. But we also understand your point that a lot of people just look for that very basic, like the most obvious clear-cut route. And that also is completely fair, right? That is, not everybody wants to be looking for those mysteries and those puzzles and all that kind of stuff that might be hidden in certain ways that are very hard to find, to be clear. Like they're not easy to find. And so there's a middle ground there where it's like, well, you need to have both being good, right? And that's really where a lot of these end game things that are being introduced come in. We understand it's really important to the game. And I think with those, it also comes naturally that there's a higher chance that people discover some of these other things, sometimes mistakenly. Will we have a hammer skin? Yeah, very soon. I think they're just finishing the color masking on them. Please don't take this the wrong way. I just want to understand how Tavern Lake QA team works. Being a QA engineer myself, for example, the certificates that we're not have feels very easy test. Yeah, so for whatever reason, worked fine on the test server, didn't work in the live environment. That's something that they've been investigating. We already have a solution to it, so don't worry on there if you had an issue. But it is something that's why we want to have a PTR, because something like that probably would have then came up in the PTR because it would have been very similar to the live environment. But yeah. Designers play on a character in game and enjoy the game yourself. I did a lot through all the beta phases and lead up to release. Since release, I have just done nothing but work on the game itself. If I was to spend 3 hours a day playing, it would take away from a lot of things we're trying to get out and trying to get ready. My days are incredibly full. If I had any free time, I would be. But yeah, played it a lot in the alpha, a lot in the beta, and definitely in the near future here, we'll be running around killing a lot of you in game. So you won't know who I am though. Just pretend I'm like the best player in the game. Pretend I'm that person anytime that they kill you. I know there's not max support. I know there is not max support, but with this update, is there a chance that it has fixed the crashes from people playing on Mac via crossover porting kit? I mean, I can't provide any support for crossover and porting kit. Again, we don't offer native Mac support. So if you're having issues with it, I'm sorry. If your issue was coming from the enhanced bot detection, that was solved for death. You won't get kicked anymore from that. A lot of people have already confirmed that. So, but if it's coming from the crossover and porting kit, I can't shit on that. What's up, Labosi? Did the last changes on trade packs and effort have a strong impact on bots? Could you measure it somehow? Yeah, we so to be clear, guys, because then he says also why detectors can't handle them automatically. To be clear, this was not people botting trade packs. This was gold farmers manually running trade packs all day. And I mean like literally 16 hours a day, only not online to sleep. And they were manually running trade packs. These were not bots doing it. This is just people that they live in an area where it is worth it to do this and sell the silver. So just to be clear on that, did the last changes on trade packs have effort? Also, one thing I also want to mention, a lot of people report botters to us. Guys, just because someone doesn't respond to you and just because someone doesn't interact with you doesn't make them a botter. Not to say not to report them, but I'm just saying that many times it is just someone who doesn't want to respond to you. And sometimes it is a botter and then they get caught. We are able to update stuff on our bot detection, and now we are able to catch everybody that is using a similar setup. Again, the enhanced bot detection gets better every day, every week, and it allows us to catch more and more people. And they have to keep changing things, and we catch them even quicker every time. But did the last changes on trade backs and effort have a strong impact on, I guess you could say, like silver sellers, silver farmers, gold farmers, whatever? Could you measure it? We can measure it to literally the single trade back being delivered to the single piece of silver. So by player, by location, everything. So we can track it very well. And it had a enormous impact on silver farmers, a gigantic impact. And when we announced this change, we saw a lot of accounts that never commented once before in the tavern complaining and saying this is the worst decision ever. We're pretty sure those were all silver farmers. And it had an enormous impact on it. And yeah. And we will continue to make changes based on that. We know people, some people don't like that they need effort now. And we've seen a lot of people complaining. We're pretty sure we're involved in silver farming anyways, because they had the same username on Discord as their character name. We were able to check their character name, how many packs they ran. It was very clear they were just silver farming. And that's why we're sometimes very selective with feedback, right? Just because someone says it's the worst decision you ever made, many times there's an ulterior motive there. But yeah, it had an enormous impact on silver farmers. I'm no one special. I'm no one important. No, you're important. I mean, everyone's equally important here. I don't want to, or I don't write very much on Discord or somewhere else. Still, I want to let you know that I feel your minor announcement, and I want to let you know that we love your game and effort. Thanks. Yeah, no, of course. Thanks for the kind words. And taking the time to write that, especially as someone who doesn't write stuff very often. Maybe when a botter is successfully reported and banned, you can send a message to one that reported him. Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea. I think the effort thing was a great change. Thank you for that. Yeah, of course. We agree. Regarding ocean clicking for speed, we had a solution for it. We shared it with the community, and really everybody that's playing from Southeast Asia or even South America, Europe, pretty much anyone outside North America would have a disadvantage because of it. Something that we didn't consider, which is simply that clicking does have certain solutions, even if you're not spam clicking. We are considering adding like a limiter to how quickly you can click. But we are working through different solutions because obviously that's not a great one either. But yeah. Are you working on a new cosmetic pack? We are not. Right now, our focus is just purely on game development. Why'd you make such an addicting game? I'm trying to think of a witty answer for that, but I don't have one. I'm kind of cooked right now. Will any raids, dungeons, or world bosses come? They will. The PvP patch is our first focus, though. What happened with the cumulative option for Rangers Company? I'm not sure what you're asking. Any news on that dual axe skin? It'll probably come with the hammer skin as well. I believe like both are like in their last final stages here. Good morning. Do you think the fusion of Angerhorn and Seraphine would be viable one day? So I assume you're talking, would there ever be a server merge? We always made clear that there's always a chance of that. But we don't have any plans on one right now. It would be something that there would be a lot of things we'd consider with that, right? And a lot of like alternatives too. Like one thing that we're considering with the PvP patch is allowing cross instancing. It's kind of the same thing that like World of Warcraft has, where battlegrounds are across all servers, not just within one server. But yeah. Game's amazing. Don't listen to people who don't know how development works. Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of obviously it. People, you know, they see death saving optimizations and think like, oh, cool. Like they probably switched a couple variables, right? I don't understand that it was like literally weeks of work. And, you know, preset builds, stuff like this. Like people oftentimes don't understand that. But that's also fair, I guess. But I guess it's like the equivalent to like an electrician coming to my home and doing something and I start yelling at him because I think he did it the wrong way when he's like done this for a decade, right? I think some people just do that and some people know like, hey, I don't really know a ton about this. But I think most people that are complaining, it's more because they love the game. They want those things, right? I don't think it's so much like they're mad at us or something. I mean, some are, but I think some are also, they just love the game and they just want, you know, to be involved. Literally nothing like that. I think that's a pretty good analogy. When you complain about the way someone else who does their work, the way they do. I think that's pretty fair. This message. Niter, you banned my RMT account, but I never RMT'd. I ended up exposing the problems of you and the hacked players. Let's see how this situation turns out. Create a server in South America. I went for a ride on that one. Also, guys, I have a meeting in 10 minutes that I cannot change, unfortunately. And so I will have to turn off the stream in 10 minutes, which sucks because I've never had to turn one off before maintenance is done. Usually I would be here for 4 hours if need be. But it's unfortunately one that I can't miss. Most of the time when we have these, like usually my weeks are scheduled the week in advance. But usually I'll just like cancel and reschedule all of them. If we have like a quick live stream like this, like an impromptu live stream, this is one that I can't change, unfortunately. So I'll probably, yeah. Will we get a patron lottery? No, but you guys will, every player, whether patron or not, will be getting free patron at the end of this maintenance. There's a little spoiler for you, so you can celebrate about that. You plan to put Raven coins in the future in the marketplace? We do not have plans of that, no. Must openly share this community feedback. Ravendon has top speed updating cycles, and we're amazed on how fast the team manages to absorb players' needs and turn this into solutions. Tibia took 8 years to add hotkeys to the game. We only complain about stuff because we are being listened to. Yeah, and we understand that too. Like we know that a lot of the reason why, and because people say this all the time, they're like, well, part of why we're so vocal is because we know you guys are reading it all and listening. And many times people say like the reason why we tag you is because we know you're in here listening as well. Yeah, so like we understand that it's usually coming from a good spot, guys. Like I'm not dumb about this. I've complained about states of games in games. I've complained about WoW PvP. I've complained about things in ArcAge. You know, like I totally understand. There's just like a limit to it, right? And also like I know like almost every dev in our community, every game dev, I should maybe be more clear because like web devs don't really get it as much. They've seen what we've done and they've been incredibly impressed. And we're very impressed with ourselves. We obviously the first like 3 months, we were cooking ourselves. We were working so much. And it was, it was not sustainable to a point, right? And that's why the team is growing now. I mean, it's been in the process of growing, but yeah, we have a lot of stuff to come. We have really cool stuff to come. And again, our mini expansion will have a very strong emphasis on bringing in new players and bringing in returning players. Maybe people that, you know, they had issues with the game very early on, maybe later in the game, maybe they're end game and they're like, you know what, I'm just going to wait a few weeks until certain things come in, or I'm just going to take a break. And guys, we've been launched for 3 months now. It's okay if after 3 months you're like, you know what, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. Obviously we don't want that. And in the end of the day, like we're going to work really hard to make you not want to take a break or anything like that. But it's also okay if you've been grinding for 3 months hardcore to be like, you know what, I'm going to wait until they have this big PvP update with all the new systems and guild wars and Aether Gates and stuff like that. That's totally fine too. I mean, you might lose a little bit of your edge in terms of where you'll be compared to other players, but at the same time, like that's really important to us. And again, a big part with the patch too is we're having a huge focus on returning players and new players. We want to make sure that like right now it's for a lot of new players, like, it's kind of hard to get into the game at this point because I feel so far behind, right? And for a lot, they don't really care because they're not super competitive. But for a lot, they're like, I feel behind. I'm getting a little bit of FOMO and stuff. And we're gonna make sure that there's, you know, new players coming in. They're like, oh shit, like I don't feel, you know, like let me get involved and stuff like that. So, question: why do you guys focus so much on PvP? I don't think we actually have. I think it's more the opposite. This patch is really our dedication to PvP. This patch makes me trust that you guys will make Steam launch feel like a 1.0. Well done with all the functions you've added through the months. Thank you. First of all, thanks for the game. I really enjoy it, but I must ask, what is the logic behind having 3 houses for 1 player? Wouldn't it be better to have 1 house, then add new land? Are you speaking specifically on houses or estates? Like you're talking about the whole land piece itself, like the land and the house and everything, or just like the house part? They're saying on the notes 20 patrons. Guess it won't happen. Wait, where? Did Neo say that? Never said that. Oh, sorry. I was just responding to a couple of dev questions. Ravenon's coming to Steam. It will in the future. It won't be right now. We don't have, like, this is not something that's coming in like the next month or something. But yes, we are already approved on Steam. It was the last stream title when you went live. Yeah, we always change them once we go live. But it was there for like a minute. So it also said like patch 1.6. So I think most people understand that was an old title. Again, guys, in a few minutes here, I got to get out of here. I hate it. I hate turning a stream off early. But so maybe I'll do a little bit of like a wrap up here. Neos will keep you guys 100% updated when the maintenance is done. He will post in minor announcements. And we will have a couple things. So one, I've already confirmed in this stream, but we will be changing the prices of preset builds. If you already got one, don't worry. It'll be handled. And they will be now more incremental. So they'll start much cheaper early on. And then on top of that, and again, these are only for silver. We're not selling these for Raven coins or anything like that. It's in-game currency. It's also okay if you can't have 10 preset builds and it's a thing to grind for to unlock. That's also okay. I just want to make that really clear. I don't think that everything we add to the game can't have in-game progression involved. But the other thing too is for the downtime, everybody is going to get free patron, whether you are a patron right now or not. Yeah. Have you seen my April Fool's joke? Please tell me you fell for that. Are you the one that's in like Labosi's community that he reshared? If so, I didn't fall. Well, I knew obviously that wasn't real. But it was hella funny. All right, guys. I'm gonna do just some closing stuff. So, again, thanks for your patience. We hate having downtime, but we also don't rush these downtimes either. I told the team, take your time to make sure that when you boot up, it's still written. Why does? Oh, wait, no, you're not on YouTube. It's not like that. I can literally see the title. That was the title for the first like 30 seconds, and then changed it. And it does on Neos's post. It doesn't on Neos's post either. I don't know. Yeah, sorry. Maybe you're looking at something. I can't respond, but because most people don't see that. But ultimately, I appreciate you guys' patience. Obviously, we hate having downtime. But we'll be up very soon, and you guys will all get some nice compensation for it, of course. Ultimately, though, yeah, I don't think I have anything else to comment on. I don't think I have more closing stuff. Follow our channel. Follow anybody who's live in the Raven Dawn category right now. Go follow them. Go follow Labosi. I see him in here. I saw Taylora in here. I'm sure there's a bunch of others that are live right now. Go give them all a follow. And thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you for hanging out with me. And, you know, I'll be in the tavern. I mean, I've always been in the tavern a lot, but I'll be posting in minor announcements a lot more here ahead. And just to be clear, it doesn't mean I'm going to be posting something in there every day. It just means that I won't be reserved from posting things like I have been. I want to communicate more with you guys. I want to share more with you guys. I want to talk about the cool things we're working on. Even if I can't give timelines and I can't give specific dates, I want to share stuff with you guys again. And we are just going to, people that use that as leverage or to attack us, we're just going to remove them, and that's totally fine with us. But we want to be a community and developers that are very closely connected and get to share stuff. So awesome. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And as soon as we're up, there will be lots of fun gameplay ahead. See you guys.